to actually get a video in of me sitting in front of the camera and just sharing with you what's on my mind. But go figure, as a nomadic native, I tend to get some interesting, inspiring ideas on the road, and I have to share them when they're on the mind. Now, this particular idea and sense of energy and presence and ideology has been on my mind for quite a while. Because, well, for one, it is coming to be autumn, and as we know, October, November comes along, Native American Heritage Month, and you know what I call that month? Rent Your Token Native Month. Yes, I said it. I love it because it's my most lucrative year. I love it because I get the opportunity to go in front of numerous people, audience of all ages, and areas and venues and genres of multiple types. I'm very happy, and I love it. But I have to say something. For my life, my mother and my father have always shared, don't go into the arts and don't try and get work in the native sector because there's no money in it. So many people are on the corporate dime, and they want the natives to come out to them on their own time, their own dime, their own food, and give them their song and dance routine that they want for nothing. Because as an indigenous person who is very aware and active-minded, as well as very present in my community, I know the importance of remaining true and present, to acknowledge the spaces that we hold space on, to acknowledge indigenous protocol, so we know the land and the spaces where we are present. And the problem with people that don't understand this, they tend to just demand and expect this information, this knowledge, this wisdom to be shared with them. Sometimes they may offer an honorarium, a travel stipend, which is wonderful, and I really appreciate it. And sometimes there is none. But when they voice how important it is, like let's say a teacher says it's really important that their class is talking about California histories or the mission curriculum of California, and she would be so honored to have a native speaker, an actual living Indian, to talk to the kids. Do you think I'm going to turn that down? Do you think I'm going to turn down bringing a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of understanding, a voice of an active, present-minded, attempting to honor truth and history individual to a classroom that could potentially just offer a little insight, maybe change your lives, or at least try and share something that's real? Because we all know the history books are severely lacking. Usually the history books are of the winning team, and they don't have much perspective on indigenous voices and indigenous issues. How it was a continuance of historical trauma. How it happens today, and people are like, oh, get over it, genocide was a long time ago. Don't get me started on that. And so there's already this sense of moral obligation that I want to be present in these people's lives, no matter the venue or the audience. And so I feel compelled to go, no matter what it is or who's offering. I feel this compulsion. And it's slightly exploitive. It's exploitive on two ends. One, everybody else is getting paid for their time. I sometimes get gas money. I get recognition. As an artist, I always hear it'll help your portfolio, it'll get you out there. I'm like, I'm out there. Thanks. It was totally because of that. and yeah. Just go to the website clientsfromhell.net. Yeah, a lot of artists will recognize those stories. I digress, a rambling rant. And the second is way people walk in this world. When I say affluent, it's not all people who have money. It's the affluent attitude that they could buy it, that they could just demand it. It's kind of that way it's infecting Burning Man. You know how Burning Man was kind of awesome, and now it's getting a little bigger, and the affluent company come in and they want to have the experience, but for some reason they want to pay for it. Oh, they don't want to walk the walk. They don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to be inside. They want to experience and receive, but they don't want to do. That sometimes happens when I talk about decolonizing and re-indigenizing our approaches to things. It happens when people say, oh, I got in trouble, or I know it's important to acknowledge the original peoples of the territory, so I'm obligated to contact local peoples. Can you help me? All right, well, what kind of project are you doing? Why do you seek this? Do you know the indigenous peoples of the territory? Are you just going by a script? Are you going by what you got in trouble for, or what someone is recommending? Like, why are you actually doing this? Do you really know why? And sometimes it's as simple as, hey, we're having an opening and we really want to follow indigenous protocol to acknowledge the original peoples and acknowledge the spaces that we hold space on. I'm like, wow, cool. But then they demand that we be present, and sometimes for honorarium or not. And it's hard because as an indigenous person, it's, to me, not right to charge. They ask, well, what's your rate? Like, to open a space, to offer words, to offer a blessing, to acknowledge original peoples. It's helpful to offer travel or an honorarium. If you're receiving monies for this event, it would be respectful to offer monies to those who are helping and aiding and participating. I don't have a rate. And it's really hard as an indigenous woman, as an artist, because already as an artist I have to work with sliding scale because I want to share my art in many venues, in many groups, settings, and with the people. I would love to get paid what I'm worth, what my education is worth, what my knowledge is worth as an indigenous woman. And I don't even have a rate. And then people look at me as though I'm unprofessional. I'm like, if you only knew. I recently encountered an amazing group. This young woman who was a teacher at UC Santa Cruz, and she was talking to me about a meeting that they were having in Santa Cruz and how she doesn't want to shut out or close any doors to welcoming people of color and indigenous people of the territory. She would love if we were able to be present to listen to the group as well as offer any words of insight, but by no means are we expected to teach or to educate or be put on the spotlight to be the token native, to be demanded upon and expected to inform these people what, well, indigenous protocol and what ways they as visitors, they as colonial settlers, they as people who don't know the original histories of the land could do better to make the space better for their community, as well as acknowledging that truth in history. I was so flabbergasted when she said this to me because I'm sitting here like already mentally preparing, all right, they probably don't have an indigenous voice, so I'm going to hold it down, I'm going to welcome people, I'm going to bring awareness that indigenous peoples from this territory are still very present and active. I acknowledge that I'm from a neighboring territory and how I, being the only person at this circle, but not local, I'm going to acknowledge as such, all the little in-betweens. I'm mentally already preparing for this. It's the usual. I'm already ready. Like, I already have my guard up. this, and she's just like, whew. I'm not demanded or expected to do it, nor am I responsible for them to learn. It made me compelled to want to share more, but that was the most respect I had ever been given as a Native person. Welcome to a meeting in a collaborative effort to better the space for their community. I was inspired. That is true decolonization, because people always want to learn what that's about. People want to become aware, yet they still have this expected criteria of putting someone else on the spot saying, you're going to teach us. You're going to be that person. The way we want to solve our problems with the next president, the way we want to solve our problems with the next boss of a company, they'll change it. They'll turn it around. They'll be the ones who will inspire change. It's like, no, we ourselves need to do this. We need to step up. When it comes to the problems of our communities, of our society, of our cities, we need to release this sense of entitlement and quit pushing the buck off to somebody else and take it on for ourselves. You want less litter? Pick some up. You want less litter? Quit using instant gratification, materialistic, single-serving items to throw away. Like those Q cups. The guy who does those Q cups didn't exist less than 2-3 years ago. I forget when they came out. The guy who created them didn't even think about a recycle policy. He was immediately there for the buck. He didn't think about, what's going to happen to these products. He didn't make them out of recycled material or easily recyclable. Like, they could have had a second purpose. Now they're just pure waste. Nobody thinks about that. They need to think how their actions will affect outward. So we need to be responsible. And I was really impressed when it came to that conversation, and especially around decolonization. How do we get out of that mindset? That I call it the affluent-minded, settler, colonial, privileged mindset. Americentric. And actually it happens in other spaces too, but it's very colonial. It's a sense of entitlement that you walk into a space and you demand that you have this privileged entitlement that you're not responsible. Someone else is. And it's a disgusting problem. But that's my rant. It was a ramble about, as a Native woman, as an artist, how challenging it is to walk in this world around those who demand and expect something from me, because right now I'm only talking from my perspective, and how others interpret me as well as how I interpret them. So, I mean, it's a rant, it's a ramble, and I usually utilize times like this to come to a conclusion and to bring voice and awareness around an issue, but I just had to spit that out for some reason. Maybe it might connect with some of you. Maybe it just was vlogging therapy for me, but I appreciate your time, and I would love feedback. I would love commentary. I'd love to engage with those who become exposed to my words. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.